Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine. Eoghan, the early, it looks like, mid-July date for foreign travel is a surprise, and I'm sure you would say welcome.
Very much welcome, but I suspect it will only be for people who've had the double course of vaccination. What we've seen since the announcement last week by the EU Commission that July the 1st, and that's the key date here, digital green certificate coming in July the 1st, member states, 27 of us, got 6 weeks to implement it. One reason for that is that previous EU initiatives were either, cherry-picked or abandoned by member states. Now, I do suspect we're going to be at the tail end of that, and all the narrative we've heard this morning would suggest that we're going to be not among the first group to jump at this, and that's not surprising given our travel policy from the start of this. But what we will probably see on that July the 19th date is that only those with the double course of vaccination, and that's a much smaller number than the overall vaccinated number across Europe. 23% of the population has got one vaccination, only 11% the second course. So we could be waiting. It's very welcome, but it isn't really a start for July the 19th. I suspect we'll be looking a little bit later in that, and there are other questions, one of which is what happens the cohort who are not vaccinated, and that could include people in their 20s and teenagers.
Someone suggests we download the Travel Doc Passenger View. It's a free app that informs passengers on all required tests and quarantine regulations based on your departure and destination airports. Also gives links to each country's locator form, updated daily and used by most airlines to screen passengers' documents at the check-in stage. And the app is free. So that's Travel Doc Passenger View.
Yeah, the IATA app is also worth looking at, and it's headed up by Irish people. Actually, the Irish are at the heart of the digital development of these travel apps. But the one that's developed for CETA for IATA, which is headed up by Willie Walsh, very easily found on the web, and that's really the one that airlines use. Yeah.
A question of people under 16, will they be exempted from the vaccine or having negative PCR tests?
I suspect they won't be exempted. I think we'll still be in the testing business for people who haven't had the vaccination, and it mightn't just be under 16. It's a separate debate, Pat, but the big ethical question of vaccinating people in their 20s while Africa is waiting for vaccinations is being played out all over the place. So we could have this situation where, and listeners will have seen those memes of the grannies dancing on tables in Ibiza because they're the only ones let in, but we will probably have a situation where there will be that bit in the middle, and different countries could take different approaches. I was talking to the Spanish tourism minister last week. He says that people under 6 won't need a vaccination, but that when it comes to teenagers and people in their 20s and young parents, you could still be looking for a testing regime. Brings you back to what you were just discussing with Sean there, the antigen testing, which countries like Germany hold great sway in, and will that replace the PCR? Because the PCR is expensive. It varies from $28 cheapest to $280 most expensive. And in reply to Susan's question, you definitely need a PCR test flying from Portugal to Ireland, but you do get a notification from the HSE after 5 days that you can do one of the walk-in tests for free. So that's really a very important development in the last month for those who are doing the self-quarantine. But self-quarantining still required, still public health policy, very important to keep saying that.